Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to League Judges TV. It's myself and Graham back with you today for another Arsenal team talk. We thought we'd look towards Monday night's game, Arsenal versus Crystal Palace. If you haven't done so already, get yourself over and watch the preview that myself, Lee, Kev and Tom did on Thursday night. But me and Graham are going to talk tactics. We're going to talk Arsenal team news. We're going to talk a little bit about Crystal Palace. But before we get into that, I want to say a huge thank you yet again and welcome Graham Brooks and ask how you are, sir. How are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm very well, mate. Nice to be back with you again this morning. Looking forward to breaking down the Palace game. First of all, can I just say what a great watch that was, and on the stream you did with on Claude this week.
Oh,
and
thank
I
you,
just
mate.
wanted to pay my own tribute to Claude, if you don't mind, just briefly to say that, look, I wasn't as close to him as you were, Dan, and I wasn't as close to him as Lee was, but obviously, I met him through AFTV, as you know, and he was incredibly kind to me. I think the image that you saw on Claude that everybody loved, that was a great side to him. But we all knew the other Claude, didn't we? What a generous, nice bloke he was. And, I can remember how shocked I was when he passed over a year ago. And I think what the foundation and the work that's being done now in recognition of what he was, that you've all been involved in helping, Lee Gunner as well, and it's fantastic. And what a legacy for him. He was a fantastic man, a real passionate Arsenal fan, and I'm just so privileged that I got to know him, not as well as you, admittedly, but I knew him, and he was such a nice guy to talk Arsenal about. Me and him started following Arsenal around 1971, around the same time, Dan, and so we used to talk about the old Arsenal team. So yeah, it was. He's been gone a year. I miss him terribly. Used to love bumping into him around the stadium, around the concourse, having a beer with him occasionally. Not too often, but I did. And I just think he was a fantastic guy to know, and a great Arsenal man. And like you, I miss him being around Arsenal, and I miss the content that he used to be involved in. And so many great funny stories about Claude. But I just want to pay my own tribute a year on from his passing, and he's missed in and around the ground, and those who knew him really well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Graham, and thank you. I know he would too. He's an absolute legend of a man and a great man, but also more importantly, a great gooner as well. Graham, we're going to move on and talk about Arsenal and Palace in a minute, but I just want to start, as we usually do, with a topic that's everyone's talking about at the moment, and that's William Saliba. We mentioned it on Thursday night, myself, Tom, Kevin, Lee, and we sort of said, we hope to see him in an Arsenal shirt, but how is he going to be convinced that Arsenal's the right club for him? He's been fantastic in France, not just for St Etienne where we signed him, but since then at Nice and at Marseille also. And I think a lot of people are kind of concerned that perhaps if you come to Arsenal that he might sit on the bench and be back up to Ben White and Gabriel. But in my opinion, and I said this on Thursday, I think that's a good thing that we have healthy competition. It's been a long time since we've had three very good centre-backs, and it would strengthen the Arsenal side. And I think me and you were talking off air about Man City, the fact they've managed to keep Stones, Diaz, and of course Laporte happy. So this is where I think Arsenal need to be heading. So what's your thoughts on Saliba, the player, and what do you think his future is going to be like? And is it going to be at Arsenal?
I think that the negotiations that are coming up in the summer are going to be very important. Who would have thought he'd make his international debut for France before he made a proper debut for Arsenal? That seems a bit crazy now, doesn't it? And we did pay good money for him. The club are talking up that they're really happy about the progress he's making at Marseille, and they thought it was the right move. It probably might have been. But for all that now, he has to be convinced that basically his representatives and him have to be convinced that he's got a future at Arsenal. And it seems a bit crazy, doesn't it? Because we are getting into that period where I think he's got something like 2 years left on his contract. So we're not going to let him get into the last year of his contract, because you could conceivably be letting a guy go for what he's not really truly worth. So I think there's summer negotiations are key. What Arteta says to try and convince him. I do think the point that we were talking about off air is a good one, and that is that we need sort of quality centre backs, like in effect what Man City have got. They've managed to keep Laporte, Diaz, and Stones happy. There's three of them that sort of like not rotate, but there's always three there. I think that there's no reason why. I think at the moment I see him as more the right-sided centre back, so he would play next to Gabriel, I think, more than likely, and he'd be in competition with Benjamin White for that right spot in the two. That's what I feel. I don't know if people feel different, but you look, I think the thing is, you do need competition. As we say, if we want to be the club we want to become, we need competition for places right across the team. So I think we need to convince him that as the future of Arsenal, that the club is growing and going in the direction that we want to be going in. So he signs up and basically wants to be part of our future. So, yeah, I think that, I don't want to lose the guy. I mean, to be honest, we've signed him and we've barely seen him. So
Yeah.
there is rumours that Mikel doesn't fancy him. I've heard that. But whether that's the case or not, I don't know. I think that they see that the way they're talking, they do see him as the future of the club. And they've just got to convince him really to sign that next contract. So we don't get into that last year of his contract. He looks for me a quality player. And I think, it's the type of player that I think, can add quality to our squad and to our team when he plays. So I want him to sign that new contract, and I'll be very disappointed if we got a player, loaned him out, and then we couldn't tie him down on another deal. I don't know what that says, but I agree with you. We need competition right across the squad. We need Rob Holding is seen almost like backup now. Obviously, if he'd been around this year, he would only have played 8 or 9 games because White and Gabriel, he might look at that and think, do you know what? White and Gabriel got those 2 positions nailed down. I hope he doesn't think that, because I think that he's got a role to play, and I don't see why he can't sort of like get his chance in the team and take it. And then if he takes his chance in the team, he could forge that position his own. But I do think that we need that healthy competition that we've talked about. So I do hope that he signs a new contract and sees himself as part of Arsenal's future.
I mean, I must say, Graham, there's a couple of things for me. Saliba getting in the France side, that's great. A bit frustrating that he hasn't, he's wore a France shirt before an Arsenal shirt, but so be it. It's the way that it's worked out. But do you think Mikel Arteta, in the back of his mind, might have to change to a back 3 next season to get Saliba into the mix? Is that an option for him?
I thought about that myself this morning when you said you wanted to talk about Saliba. I thought, well, how would you fit him in the team? And a back 3 is the solution because Ben White has played in a back 3 quite well at Brighton. But I don't think Arteta's the way he wants us to play is with the back 3, is it? I'm not saying it might not be an option when you're away from home and you want to play tactically against a certain side. So some teams play with a back 3, and sometimes you might want to match up. But I think generally what we've seen is he's been very brave in the way he's taken his team, Arteta, even without the players in certain positions, like Xhaka playing a left-sided number 8. I never saw that coming. But he's obviously decided this is the way he wants to play. He's going to coach the players to play in those positions. And then I think he's going to probably upgrade on that left-sided of midfield. And I think Xhaka will be gone in the summer. That's what I feel. So I don't see the back 3 as probably something that he'll be going with. I'm not saying it won't be used very occasionally, but it gives him that option, doesn't it? It does give him the option of playing all 3 of them. The problem is when you play all 3 of them and play 2 wing backs, you're literally only playing 2 in centre mid, aren't you? You and also Odegaard would drop back into a 2. I just don't see that probably working. I'm not saying it can't, but I think we're more or less now gravitating to this 4-3-3, which I think is the formation he wants to play virtually the whole time. So I'm not saying it's not a possibility, Dan, but I just don't see it. It's an option, though, isn't it?
It is an option, and Tide Gunnosaurus has said, Graham, you're amazing. He says, can I ask tactically, what is Saliba's best position? That's an interesting one, Graham, because in France he's been playing left centre-back and right centre-back and in a back 3 at Nice and Etienne and, of course, recently at Marseille. So have you seen enough of him to understand whereabouts you see his best position?
I'll be absolutely honest, and I see him more. I see him more as a right-sided centre-back, but you are right, he has been playing on the left side as well. So maybe he could play left side for Arsenal then. I haven't seen enough of him really, Dan, to actually understand what his best position is, to be fair. But I've noticed he's played on the left side. I always saw him as a right-sided player myself, but he could possibly play on the left side. So, you've got 3 defenders there, 3 quality defenders in White, Gabriel and Saliba. And maybe if Gabriel's not fit, he could fit in there. I always saw like Holding as possibly able to play on the left side at times. Even though he's right-footed, of course, but I see Holding as somebody who could play there. But no, I don't think Holding's at the level Saliba is. So the fact that he's playing on the left side and comfortably playing on the left side, means that obviously he can play there. But I always saw him more as the right-sided centre-back, but it's good that he's versatile, he can play in both positions. And do you know what? I think that if we could keep those three centre-halves, in like what we said in the way Man City have got their three centre-halves, that would be fantastic for us. Bearing in mind next season, hopefully if we get Champions League, or certainly Europe, we will be playing more games. So there'll be plenty of game time for him. So, so I think it's an option. But in answer to the guy's question, I've always seen him more as a right-sided centre-back. But you are right, at Marseille and in games recently, he has been sort of like playing on the left as well.
Yeah, 100%. And just lastly, before we move on from this point, Graham, I want to ask you, has this been a good bit of business for Arsenal by loaning him out and giving him first team football? That's my first question. And second of all, do you think that potentially there's some attitude problems there that Arteta's trying to give more time to see if he can perhaps mature into the footballer that, potentially he could be?
First part of the question, the answer is yes. I think it has proved to be a good thing to loan him out, because obviously and the fact that he's had to deal with pressure at Marseille, because Marseille are second in the French league, a top French club. So and I think he's getting regular game time. So that is obviously, I think it's been a good move. Good move. You could argue that for sure. There are question marks about his character. I'm not so sure. I know much about that, to be fair, but I have seen that in some articles I've read, and there's always questions of players' character, but I don't know if he's been involved in anything, behind the scenes that suggests there is a question marks against his character. But one thing he has proved, I think he has got the character to be strong. He's forged his way into the French national team, and made his debut now, and he's been part of a very good Marseille defence this year, and I've been impressed when I see him in the games I've watched him, in the game against PSG, for example. So, look, I think we've got a quality player there. He's still our player, and I want us to nail him down, and I want him to be part of our future. And I see him, like what we said, as being competition. Those three centre-backs can be pushing each other really hard next season, and they're going to get their opportunities, because you never know. One player could get injured and another guy comes in. So I think we need that, and I think that's important for any club if they want to be successful.
Yeah, 100% it is. Graham, let's move on to Monday night's game. It's an 8 p.m. game, Monday night, Crystal Palace versus Arsenal. Patrick Vieira comes back again. Arteta said in his press conference, as did Vieira, that, there was a little bit of mutual respect, it seemed. And I think that's fair, because I think although Arteta has had some critics, and I've certainly been one of them over the last couple of years, I think we are seeing progress now. And there's not really an Arsenal fan, I don't think, that can say that we haven't showed progress. And those that are saying that we're not showing progress, they still don't see a style, I think need to actually look at things a little bit more carefully, because I think we are now starting to see a lot more of improvement. As for Patrick Vieira, I think he deserves a hell of a lot of credit, Graham. I really do. I tipped Crystal Palace to be in a relegation battle this season because of the amount of players that they lost, because Vieira was his first kind of job in the Premier League as a manager, and because they had a very young squad. But I look at the recruitment, I look at this young side, and I think Vieira deserves a lot of plaudits. He's got some very, very good players, which we're going to come on to in a minute. But looking at the press conferences and talking of players that might be in and might be out, Arsenal and Palace both with a couple of doubts to some of their players. So what can you talk to me about that, mate?
First of all, I will say, just briefly on the Patrick Vieira thing, what a fantastic job he's done at Palace, not only in the recruitment, but you've got to remember the way they used to play under Roy Hodgson. They literally used to play counter-attacks, sit deep, didn't they? He's got them pressing on the front foot, playing, sort of like a style of football that I think Palace fans are really enjoying, that they never saw coming. And so not only with the recruitment, and obviously recruitment helps to get the players in you need to play in the way you want to play, but he's literally ripped up the blueprint at Crystal Palace and got them playing high intensity, pressing, looking to win the ball back higher up, not sitting deep, and try and score goals from broken play. And to be fair to him, that that's a fantastic job he's done there, playing in that style. So he deserves all the credit he's getting, because when he came in England from France, his managerial career in France wasn't as great as people were saying. He had a very average sort of like managerial career in France. So to come into the Premier League, a top quality league, and turn Palace around and get them, albeit they have drawn a lot of games, they are the draw specialists in the Premier League, but he's got them playing a style of football that I think is rightly being sort of like talked about in glowing terms. In terms of this going into this game, which you're talking about, Palace have got major injury concerns, as we know, as much as Arsenal have one or two doubts as well. So on the Palace side, what I took out the press conferences, what Palace have sort of like got going into this game, they've got real worries, doubts over two real key players, and that is Elise and Zaha. And do you know what? As an Arsenal fan, you wouldn't be too disappointed if those two players didn't play on Monday night, would you? So, and I think, they've got four quality players in their team. Gallagher in midfield, Eze, Zaha and Elise. And the thing was, when they beat Everton so convincingly 4-0 in their FA Cup tie, they got them into the semi-final. That was the first time that those four players have played in at the same time in Vieira's Palace this season, which is an incredible stat, isn't it? So it just shows another tick in the box for what he's done at Palace, that he hasn't always had his best players playing at the same time. But there are doubts over Elise and Zaha. Zaha picked up on international duty. Elise also is struggling with an injury. So, and they are, like I seen, as 50-50. I think if this game was today, I don't think they'll be playing. The fact it's on a Monday does give them that extra bit of time, and he's obviously assessing them in training. I wouldn't be surprised if one of those two players played. And I don't know where they are, but both are like 50-50. MacArthur is also a possibility, but unlikely to feature. MacArthur, of course, we remember from the Emirates game where he kicked through the back of Saka, which really should have been sent off. So, so that's the situation with Palace, and we're going to show the team that we think they might play on Monday night. So when I said to you what I thought it would be, I've erred on the side of caution, as though Elise and Zaha are not going to be playing, but of course they could well feature. Both could well feature, or one could feature. From Arsenal's point of view, from Mikel's press conference, it looks like to me that Tomiyasu is very close to returning, but not quite there yet. I think he's back with the group, but I still think no need to rush him back, for the simple reason that Cedric is doing so wonderfully well on that right-sided position. He's slinging in most crosses into the box of any Arsenal player at the moment. He's winning the ball back high. He's got great numbers of winning the ball back, and he's really blossoming on that right side in that sort of like combination play he's involved with up high with Odegaard and Saka. So Tomiyasu is getting close. I think Tomiyasu possibly will be in real contention. Probably will start more Brighton home Saturday week than he will on Monday. So I expect Cedric to retain his spot. Tomiyasu is close to getting back to fitness. I think Saka obviously was struggling with COVID, but I think he's back now with the group. And if Saka's fit, he plays. We know that. And then I'm looking at the other side of it. Smith Rowe obviously picked up a knock, but he's back training again. And that's the call he's got to make on that left side. Who he plays again, Martinelli or Saka. Martinelli or Smith Rowe. And then, of course, the goalkeeping situation. I think Ramsdale is definitely unlikely to play. I think that hip problem is still a long way away from being ready for him to come back into the side. But then we got Bernd Leno, who's a perfectly able deputy. So I'm expecting the Arsenal team, I think, to be the same team they played at Villa, but I'm expecting Martinelli to play instead of Smith Rowe. But overall, that was the key things that come out of the press conferences in regard to players who are available or struggling with injury.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everybody is talking about what they're going to see in terms of Crystal Palace's side with Zaha and Elise. And this is going to be really, really interesting for me, because actually, Graham, what Crystal Palace have actually got is some strength in depth. Now, I look at if they have some problems with players. They've got Edouard, who we've not mentioned, Mateta, who's been very, very good. Obviously, they've still got Christian Benteke, Jordan Ayew, that were basically the players of old. So let's go through some of what we think is going to happen in terms of the team news for both Palace and for Arsenal. This is what we think it probably is going to be. We'll start with Arsenal. I don't see any change there, like you said. You've gone with Martinelli, though, on the left-hand side, and obviously Leno in goal. There's potential for Smith Rowe to come in there, but everything else is pretty much looking like that's going to be what it is, Graham. Are we right there?
I think so. I think he'll persist with the 4-3-3 with the two attacking number eights, with Partey sitting at the base of that three. The one decision he could play with Smith Rowe instead of Martinelli. I think Martinelli, who we have to mention, congratulations to him. He made his debut for Brazil. I think that he'll come back in. I think but it is a difficult one to know what Mikel's going to do. He might look at the opposition to see which he think might fit in better against the way they play. But I've just got this feeling Martinelli will come back in. Crystal Palace, there very much a similar formation to us. We've got what we think they might go with. Obviously, I think the back five is pretty much settled. Two of their guys were on England duty during the international break. It's good to see them getting involved. The left side of their midfield for me is a difficult one to call. I think obviously Conor Gallagher is the real standout in their midfield, and what a great player he's been blossoming. He's on loan from Chelsea. They probably won't be able to keep him, I think, at the end of the season, but he's been fantastic for them. But who's he going to put next to Coyote? I've gone for Sloop on the left side there, but I think Hughes, who scored a goal for them in the game against Everton, I believe, could easily come back. He could get the nod. It's difficult to say which one he'll play there. And then we've got those decisions up front, haven't we? I've gone for the safe bet of on the left side and the right side of Mateta, thinking that Zaha and Elise won't be fit, but those sort of positions could easily change, couldn't they?
100%. I put them in there. I've put them in there, but
what you've shown on the board there, you've put Zaha and Elise in there. But
I mean, if Elise and Zaha, I mean, this will happen. If Elise is not fit, then obviously Ayew will come in, and if Zaha is not fit, then Eze will come in. So that's what we kind of think will be if the two.
That's what we think. I mean, the other option for him, of course, if Zaha and Elise are fit, he could play Eze on the left side of the midfield because he has played in there before. But I tended to notice with what Hodgson, he said that Vieira does, when they play the bigger sides, and I like to think we're in that bigger side bracket, he's a little bit more pragmatic in the way he sets it up. I'm not saying he changes his principles in the way they play. They look to press up high and look to win the ball back up high. But I think sometimes he likes a bit more balance, a bit more solidity in the middle that, say, that Hughes or a Sloop would give in a three than playing Eze and, say, Elise on the same side, which probably might leave him more open. But it is difficult to know what he's going to play at the moment because obviously he's got those injury worries. I wouldn't be surprised actually if both of them play. How often is it that you talk about their 50-50, and it's a little bit of mind games at times as well, managers. But I think to be fair to Vieira, he might want those two players on the pitch. The other thing we need to factor in, Dan, just one other thing, is they've got their FA Cup semi-final coming up against Chelsea. So he might think, do you know what, I don't want to risk a guy who's not 100%, and then I don't have him available, because that's a massive game for Palace, a cup semi-final, a chance to get into a final. So that might come into his thinking as well. So remains to be seen what he does. We've looked at options there. As I say, you've sort of like, originally when you put the board up there, you showed Zaha and Elise and up front three, but it could easily be two of those players. Of course, Ed Ward might come into his thinkings as well, but I think he's more likely competing for the position down the middle. But that's the lineups that we think that both teams will probably go with what you've got there now.
Yeah, I agree. And of course, they've got some strength in depth. Let's just concentrate on Arsenal for a minute. We're going to ask a little bit about danger men at Palace in a little while, a little bit about how we might be able to get at Crystal Palace tactically. But I just want to bring one question in, actually, because I think it's important. This has come again from Tide Gunnosaurus. Hope you're well. Thanks for listening. Graham, I'll put this one to you. What's the impact to Arsenal's attack when Tomiyasu plays compared to Cedric? And also, what I want to add on that is how that affects Kieran Tierney on the other side.
Yeah, I think what we've seen that when the difference is, quite frankly, it's almost like when Tomiyasu plays, I think the left side becomes the side where we looked. Although we've been progressing more down the right side over recent weeks, that has probably been because we've got the Cedric, Saka, and Odegaard triangle. So and the benefits of having Cedric in the team is he's probably a better than defender, and then when he does that, Kieran Tierney more or less becomes more inverted, doesn't go up high so much. But when it's on, when Tomiyasu is playing, he plays more inverted on the right hand side, so he's more likely to hold his position more, and Tierney's more the player that goes high. So the difference is between them, I think, is the strength of the player. Tomiyasu is the better defender, more able to sort of like drop back into a three and come inverted, although he does go high occasionally. But whereas Cedric's strengths are more in the offensive half of the pitch, so he's the one more than likely to go high, and then Kieran Tierney more likely to hold his position on the left-hand side. So that's the difference between it's sort of like the elbow of the team, that expression I've heard various people call it, the elbow of the team changes. When Tomiyasu plays, we're more likely to go high on the left-hand side for Kieran Tierney. And then when Cedric plays, he's more likely to be the player going high because that's his strength. But Tomiyasu is the better defender. That's the point I make. So he's more likely to be more inverted than Cedric.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think although Tomiyasu is more disciplined, I think we've seen a little bit more of Cedric in the last few games, being a little bit more disciplined. And I think personally, that's why Kieran Tierney has actually played a lot better, because I do think when Tierney's allowed to get forward, he is a better player. And I think that certainly when he came into the team to start with, although Cedric was really good, I thought it affected Kieran Tierney. But of late, I think he's starting to go into that. And I mean, Cedric, what have you made of him performance-wise? Because his numbers are really good, Graham.
I think he's been really good over the last month. The numbers don't lie. He's won the ball back on numerous occasions up high. He puts in more crosses than any player from that right hand side. But I think defensively he's been okay as well. So the thing I love about this now is about a month ago we were talking about we were going to be looking for to buy another right back as cover in the summer, weren't we? And Cedric wasn't going to be seemingly to be part of those plans. But I think he's changed the manager's thinking over the last month with his performances. And I think that, he's even forced his way back into the Portugal squad. So, look, I think it's good. We talked about wanting competition at centre-half, and the three centre-halves would be great for the club. And if we've got two quality right-backs pushing each other, albeit I see Tomiyasu is probably ahead of him, but Cedric is doing enough to sort of like say, do you know what? If I get my chance, I'm going to fight for my position. And I think he said that this week. He's saying the right things. He's welcoming the challenge of Tomiyasu coming back. You come into that, you put your hand up now. You're going to knock me out of that team. I'm going to be putting performances in, week out. They're going to say to the manager, I deserve to be picked. And that's what we want, don't we? So his performances over the last month, as I say, the numbers are brilliant in crosses, winning the ball back, tackles. He's up there in the numbers with any Arsenal defender. And also offensively, putting more crosses into the box than anyone. And that's, of course, Kieran Tierney's strength, putting crosses into the box. So, do you know what? We used to attack down that left-hand side. Tierney was one putting the crosses in. When we got Cedric in the side now, we can put crosses in from the other side. So we've got, sort of like tremendous versatility now across our defence. It's great to see, and I think he's done a fantastic job. And I think he's changed the manager's thinking over the last month, Dan.
I think he's changed the fans' thinking as well, because I was certainly one who believed that he was a weak link and thought maybe we needed a Tariq Lamptey or an upgrade in the summer. And I stand by that, but I do think Cedric deserves a lot of credit. And I think that he has been a really good player for us, particularly in the last 6 to 7 weeks. Graham, let's talk a little bit about Crystal Palace and how you think they may set up. Against Manchester City on a Monday night, they were fantastic. I've got to say, they were absolutely outstanding. They really found a way to make it hard for Manchester City. So talk to me about the battle in midfield. Talk to me about how you think they'll set up in terms of Crystal Palace and some of the kind of analysis that you've made of them this season.
Well, as I say, I think that they're a team that the way they played against Man City was different. I thought that they sat deeper against Man City, and for all as well as they played, you've got to remember Man City missed a lot of chances that night, and so that wasn't the way they've been playing generally. I think they have been pressing up high, not only pressing up high, but pressing in the middle third. And I think that what Vieira wants them to do is he wants them to wing the ball back quickly when they lose it and try and attack from broken play and literally press. So he's got them working incredibly hard off the ball. So I think that they will probably play this way against us, which might play into Arsenal's strengths, because if you've got the front three looking to press when we're trying to play out, and then you've got the middle three looking up to press on midfield, so you've got the team playing higher, I expect the back four to push up more to make sure the distances are not so big. So they won't be sitting so deep, they'll be high up the pitch. This could suit Arsenal, I think, if they play this way, Dan, for the simple reason that we have got ability to play out and play round teams and then get our players with individual talent on the ball in areas where they can affect the play. So I think Arsenal, we've seen in the past, have struggled sometimes with teams that sit deep, but teams who come on to us with pretty good now at playing around them, and that comes down to the way Arteta's coached the team, the way we play out. I'm not saying he'd be playing like that the whole game, but I think so. I'm expecting them though generally to sort of like be on the front foot. Remember, it's a Monday night game. They've got home advantage. Their fans are incredibly passionate. They won't expect the team to be sort of sitting off us. They'll be sort of like encouraging them to come on to us. I think that might suit us, as I say, the way if we can play out and play around them. I think the other point I made to you, their midfield, I think it's very high in the league for fouls. I think they commit the fifth most fouls in the Premier League. So that suggests to me that tackling is not their strong suit. So, we want to encourage them on, and hopefully that, if they're sort of making some bad decisions tactically, a guy could be on a yellow that might influence the way he plays the rest of the game. So I think that's one of their weaknesses. I think for all the talent they got in midfield, I don't think they're great at tackling, getting the ball back the way he wants. And I think that we've got the sort of players who can play around that and possibly draw fouls or play around those sort of situations. So it'd be interesting to see how they set up. That's what I'm expecting. And I think the battle might be, sort of like they're pressing us. We know we like to press as well off the ball. And I think that we like to try and play round teams and get players on one-on-one situations like Saka. That could be a good bet on the left-hand side. Saka on our right-hand side against their left full-back. And also Martinelli running in behind. We know Laka's going to drop into midfield to make that diamond, to drop into midfield as a 4 with the two left side, the two number 8s and Partey. And then we know we're going to try and isolate our wide players one-on-one with their full-backs. So I'd just like to see us sort of like get more players into that penalty box in this game. I think we've shown signs over recent weeks of being able to do that, apart from the Liverpool game. So I certainly thought that we did that very well against Aston Villa. We had sort of 4 or 5 players in the box. So for all that, I think I'm looking at that thinking, do you know what? With them pressing high, I think that gives us an opportunity to play around them and try and play our football, which I think it will be key to the game if we can do that.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, they've got a lot of strengths, Crystal Palace. We've seen it this season. I've been really, really impressed. And they've certainly got some danger men as opposed to a danger man. We've spoken about Zaha and Elise, and of course they'll be danger men if they do play. But if they don't, Graham, they've still got Conor Gallagher. They've still got Eze. How do you think we can keep those players quiet?
I think that when you talk about how we keep those players quiet, I think we just got to play our natural game.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying that we need to possibly worry about keeping them quiet. I don't think we set out to play football in that way. I think that we're concentrating on our own strengths. And I think the thing is sometimes if you're doing the things well that you need to be doing, those players can't sort of like be in positions where they can hurt you. So you talk about how we keep them quiet. We keep them quiet by being good ourselves and pushing them back and forcing them to sort of like, play around their press, put a bit of doubt in their minds early on. I think the first 15, 20 minutes, we need to weather that storm because I think that'll be the time where they will be coming on to us. And if we get through that first 20 minutes and get the first goal, I think evidence shows in Arsenal Crystal Palace games, we do score a lot of early goals against them. So if we can get that early goal, that might well shape the game. I think the other thing in pushing back, another of their weaknesses, they are very susceptible to concede goals from set plays, which is also one of our strengths. We've scored something like 11 goals from set plays this season, and we haven't conceded any goal from a corner ourselves. But they've conceded 13 goals from set plays, so they are vulnerable. They don't defend set plays that well. So that's an area that we could manipulate if if we can draw fouls in wide areas, get crosses into the box. But I think in answer to your question in keeping them quiet, I just think we need to be good at what we're doing. That keeps them quiet. Then that's what I'll say. I'm not, to be honest, Zaha, if he plays, is always a problem. You've got to get players around Zaha. So I accept that. Zaha is obviously a danger and he's their top quality standout player if he plays. We know that he's hurt us in the past and he gets into the box. He's incredibly dangerous. You've got to be so careful because he's looking to buy a foul. So, and I've been very impressed with young lad, Elise this season. He looks a top talent who they got from Reading for really good money. Possibly we missed out on an opportunity because of getting him. So, but one thing I think that they'll be wary of Palace is if they're going to play this pressing game, I've noticed it's very hard to play a high intensity pressing game up top in the middle. Even Arsenal, we press for a while, then we drop back. So, and I think that Palace this season have been conceding a lot of goals down late in games, late in halves. And I think and that probably comes from what Vieira's asking them to do, to press all the time. It is, I think you've got to be careful sometimes, the way you apply your pressures in games. And so that suggests to me that they struggle maybe with what he wants them to do. So that's a good focus on them. As much as they have conceded goals early to us in the last few games, we scored a late goal at the Emirates that got us to 2-2, which I don't think we deserved. They were the better team on the night. But they do concede a lot of late goals. And McGinn, for example, of Villa, and Maupay of Brighton scored late goals against Palace. So it suggests a concentration issue or a tiredness issue. So I think from Arsenal's point of view, we just need to play our football, but be patient as well. Make sure that we're solid, don't make any mistakes in the first 20 minutes, and then earn the right to play the football. And, they'll have to worry about us. But don't get me wrong. I mean, I think Nathaniel Klein said it in a press conference yesterday. They're at home. They see themselves, home advantage as massive. You've been there. I've been there. You know what the atmosphere is at Palace. It's unique, the atmosphere at Palace. So they will be behind the team. But we need to sort of, I say, make sure we start well, don't make any mistakes, and get the foothold in the game. We have got players who can hurt them as much as they've got quality in their team, as you can strengthen they can bring off the bench. And they've got young quality in their side as well. Gallagher, Elise, if he plays, and Eze is a good player. They've got lots of good young players. But for all that, we've got quality players ourselves. So, and they'll be wary of us. We're on a fantastic run at the moment. They draw a lot of matches. I think that they haven't lost that many of their last 7, but they've been drawing virtually every game, I think, in the league. We've won 6 of the last 7. So, but for all that, this is a really tricky game, Dan. And I think this is the one, London derby, under lights, Monday night, that makes it tricky. But I was talking to you off air. These next 3 games are crucial for us. When I think about it, Palace away, Brighton at home, Southampton away, before we get into those really difficult sort of games against teams really at the top of the league. These are the games that we really need to also pick out 3 wins out of 3. I think when we go in Monday night, we'll also know what job we got to do, depending on how Tottenham have got on against Newcastle and Man United have got on against Leicester. So, so for all that, that's how I see it playing out tactically. I think it'll be a game where, we'll be playing like the away, but we play on the front foot. We don't sit to defend. We've got players who can hurt teams in behind. We've got a structured way we play and build up now. And I think it'll be an interesting battle in midfield. I think, as I say, Vieira, I think this game could be settled by who gets a foothold in midfield and be able to get their wide players in good positions to influence the play and create openings. So, but I like our midfield at the moment. Patrick Vieira be well aware of what Thomas Partey has done at Arsenal. He's really has been a fantastic over the last month, and he's and I think that they'll be looking at that and thinking, how can they, as much as we're saying what do we need to stop of them, they'll be thinking, well, what do we need to stop at Arsenal? And that combination, Odegaard, is high up in pass completion numbers for us. And it'd be key to the team. Odegaard, Saka, and Cedric working up high on that right-hand side, I think also will be key, I think, to the game. And Palace, I think, will come back and defend. It'd be interesting to see how Vieira sets up that wanting to press from the top. He's got to worry about if Arsenal play around them and get in behind, Arsenal can hurt them, and he'll be aware of that then.
Yeah, 100%. And this midfield battle is going to be great. And you say Partey's been great the last couple of months. I think he's had a brilliant 2022, Thomas Partey. Since that new position and system change, not only has he been fantastic, but because he's been so great, it's allowed Granit Xhaka and, of course, Martin Odegaard to be absolutely instrumental in midfield. And I'm really liking that midfield at Arsenal at the moment. And I do think in the summer that if we can get a couple of players in that midfield, then we really can beef that up a bit. Let's go through some match stats, Graham, between Crystal Palace and Arsenal. Crystal Palace are the draw specialists, mate. 13 draws this season, and Arsenal have only had 3 draws. But Arsenal have scored 4 goals in the opening 12 minutes of games versus Crystal Palace, as you were saying earlier, in the last 5 meetings in the Premier League. So an early goal would be great again, something Manchester City just couldn't get. So let's see how we get on. Arsenal have scored 3 90th-minute goals in their last 2 Premier League games versus Crystal Palace. We love a last-minute goal. Arsenal have won their last 5 games, Premier League games, away games in a row, coming into this game. And the last time they won 6 away games in a row was September 2013. So fingers crossed that we can break that record on Monday night. 5 of the last 7 games between Arsenal and Palace have ended in a draw, which doesn't sound too good history-wise. And lastly, none of the last 7 Premier League games between Arsenal and Palace have ended in a home win. That could be a good omen, Graham. Let's see what happens there. Yeah, we don't want some of those records. We do want to break. Some of them we don't want breaking, don't we? Do you know what I mean? So let's see how
the history of this fixture is towards a draw. And I just wonder what you think. If it was a draw, what would you be feeling? If it was a draw, would you say that'd be a missed opportunity, or would you say, I mean, how the game goes, doesn't it? I do think that before you answer that question, we were incredibly lucky to get a draw at the Emirates, you know, they were really good that night. We scored early, and then they took over. So, and we were lucky. Laka got that late goal. So, you know, I do think we need to really be on our game on Monday night, and. But I just wonder what you feel. Say Tottenham were to beat Newcastle and Man United were to beat Leicester. Would a draw not be good enough for you?
Well, it wouldn't, is the simple answer. However, we'll go into score predictions in a minute, and you know we'll say what we think will happen. But I did say, looking at the fixtures, I don't like to do this, but I think as fans we always do look ahead, don't we? And I looked at this one as a potential banana skin. I think we've got more of a chance of drawing this game than we have against Brighton and Southampton in the next 3. I really do, and that's because they set up very well. They're well disciplined, and I think the way that they played against Manchester City at home has given me some doubts that we can, you know, with the quality that they've got up front, Man City, and their firepower, they struggled. We haven't got that firepower. We do have great players, but we haven't got that centre forward or those 5 or 6 players that are all dangerous in the box. We've got 2 or 3 individuals that have a little bit of skill that hopefully we can allow to get in behind them. Now, I think that could be a potential banana skin Monday night, but I'm remaining optimistic. But you're right, Graham, it is going to be difficult. And I'm not expecting a 4 or 5-0 from Arsenal. I don't think with that team anyway, but I don't expect that against a side like Crystal Palace, who, let's be honest, their recruitment, I mean, Anderson and Mark Gay, they've deservedly got, with Mitchell, an England call-up. I think they've been absolutely outstanding. I think Klein's always been a good fullback. They've got a good goalkeeper. I love their midfield. I think Conor Gallagher is just, I mean, I saw him at West Brom last season. I thought he was good, but he's been exceptional this season, even better for Crystal Palace. And I like their players going forward, Crystal Palace. You know, I do like Zaha, and I've always liked him. I like Elise. I think that's a great buy, great piece of business. I thought Eze was a great piece of business, and he's going to be dangerous. I think Schlupp's a 7 out of 10 player most games. You know, he always causes some problems. Not really a goal scorer, but certainly a creative player. Mateta has been fantastic to keep Edouard out the side. And Ayew and Benteke always seem to score goals against Arsenal. So they've got some real dangerous players. They really have. You know, you look at it like that and think, wow, maybe this isn't such an easy game then. I never saw it as an easy game. I thought it was going to be a tough one. Which leads me to our score predictions, Graham. I'll let you go first. What have you gone for, mate?
When you asked me this, I said to you, didn't I? Fair, I think it could be determined by what team Palace put out. I mean, if Zaha and Elise, for example, are fit, that might sort of like influence what I might say as a score prediction. But for all that, I'm not going to go against Arsenal at the moment. I'll be silly to think that as an Arsenal fan. I always rule score predictions for me are ruled by my heart more than my head. So unless we're playing Man City or Liverpool, so I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win, and I don't think that he'll risk both Elise and Zaha. I think Zaha might not play. If he doesn't play, I think that would be great for us. I do think we've got enough quality up front to hurt them, and I'm just hoping. You know, we have been solid at the back, and I think the way we played at Aston Villa did encourage me, because the fact is, what I loved about us in that performance, Dan, was that we dominated the game right for 60 minutes, playing our style of football, not worrying about what Villa did. Took our chance and scored, but then in that last 25 minutes, when we did come under the cosh, we should have had the game wrapped up immediately, but we were able to defend it, and I love the way the team defend. You know, the two sides of Arsenal, the free-flowing attacking style, getting the goal, and then the resilience the last half hour. I think this will be a different test. It will be under lights. It's a local derby. Their atmosphere, the Palace fans, they'll be driving them on. But Palace are no higher up the league than Villa, are they? So from that point of view, the quality we've got in the team, if the players get it right on the night and play to their capabilities, I think we'll nick it 2-1.
I love the optimism. I'm also going to be optimistic, but it's funny you bring up Villa. I think it's going to be very similar. I'm going to go 1-0 to the Arsenal. And the reason I'm going to go 1-0 to the Arsenal is because I don't think it's going to be a repeat fixture of the Emirates, where obviously we saw a 2-2 draw. I think it's going to be a very tight game, and I don't think we're going to see a lot of goals. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 to the Arsenal. I've got confidence, and I'm optimistic that we can now keep clean sheets. Our defence is very good. I thought Leno had a really good game against Aston Villa, although his distribution isn't quite as good and he's not got the command of area of Aaron Ramsdale. I do think that he's a good backup goalkeeper to have. I do expect him to leave in the summer, but I think at the moment we've got two very good goalkeepers, Graham, and I think that's a real good plus for Arsenal this season. So I expect Leno to come in and do well and that not affect the fact that we can't keep a clean sheet. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 to the Arsenal. And do you know who I'm going to go for on the score sheet? It's got to happen sooner or later. I keep doing this and I should stop because it's a bad omen at the moment, but I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to go for Lacazette, because he needs to score. He needs to score. And when I did go for him, I was celebrating against Wolves in the last minute, and it wasn't even him. It was an own goal in the end anyway. But I just need to see more from Lacazette in terms of goal scoring. I do think that he brings a lot of other attributes onto the pitch. I do. But I just feel that we need to see a little bit more in terms of Lacazette in front of goal. And I understand that that might change potentially our style, or it might change some of the attributes Lacazette has. He's not an off-the-shoulder striker. It is easy to defend against somebody like Lacazette than it is perhaps a Martinelli or a Pepe, who would play a lot more off the shoulder, and you could potentially not drop as have to drop a lot deeper than being pushed up as high. But I do think at the moment it is working for us with a player like that, and I do think he'll be upgraded in the summer, of course. So I'm not going to start slating him, and I'm also not going to give him all the credit in the world. But I do need to see a lot more goals from Alexander Lacazette. So I'm going to go 1-0 to the Arsenal.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we score from a set play. Like they're very susceptible to set plays. We got been scoring goals from set plays quite well this season. Yeah. Which I never thought I'd see at Arsenal.
No, I didn't.
The amount of corners we used to have, we couldn't score for toffee from a corner. But this season, the set piece coach has come in and done a wonderful job. Not only in the fact that we're not conceding from corners, but the fact that we're scoring from set plays. And Palace are vulnerable from set plays. I would not be surprised if we nicked one from a set play. And I think it will be different from the game at the Emirates for the simple reason, when you're away from home, you do play a slightly different style, not so open as you will when you're looking to play at home, albeit we like to play our football. But I think we're set up sort of like the way you set the team up now to defend out of possession away from home is a joy to see. And I think that's why it will be different. As ever in these games, I think the first goal is a massive goal, and it does change the way the game might be played. So, keep our fingers crossed we get it, and that changes the way they will have to play, and then we can this time capitalise it and get that second goal. It's a massive week. I think that if Tottenham and Man United were not, or one of them was not to get a result, particularly Tottenham, that might sort of like take a bit of pressure off. But make no bones about it, the team now going to have to cope with pressure down for the rest of the season. It's a repeated term, and I think you even said it on Lee Judge's TV. It's almost like we've got 10 cup finals, and every game is a big game now to the end of the season. So, I'm just keeping my fingers crossed. A little bit nervous, I must admit, going into this fixture, as you always are. But I've got faith in the boys, faith in Mikel, and hopefully we get the job done on Monday night.
Yeah, let's hope so, man. Couple of questions in the chat to finish us off. First one's Arsenal for life. He's asked, Graham, do you think we can finish fourth?
I never thought that at the start of the season. I think Tottenham have got an incredibly easy run in, and I think it could well be, if we avoid defeat at Tottenham, that will have a massive influence on us getting it. I think we need 70 to 71 points to get there. That is the average benchmark. It's in our hands. I think we have got the quality in the team to get fourth. So, yes, I do. I think that we will get fourth.
That's fantastic. And last question before we wrap up has come from Allah. He says, guys, do you reckon that the Cronkies will fund a good summer transfer if we get top four? Imagine next season with the Champions League, the Premier League, and the other two cups with a thin squad. It would be a disaster. Graham, I'll let you answer that one first.
I'm never so sure the Cronkies are going to fund anything. But that's just me being the normal pessimist. Look, if we know, I think the key positions in the team, we know already that he's got to upgrade, and that's up front and in centre mid, on the left side of centre mid. So if we get Champions League with the extra money that brings, we've docked a lot of money off the wage bill now with players going out. So there is money available there. I just do not know the numbers. I do not know what they can spend. Obviously, you have to stay within the financial fair play rules, which is, I believe. So look, I would like to think that they would help him in some way because he has gone to them in the past and said he's needed money and they've helped him. And I'm pretty sure that when we were looking at buying Vlahovic in January, and he was out there in the States talking to the Cronkies, that could well have been part of the conversations. And I need a bit of money now if we can get this deal over the line. So maybe they have, to be honest with you, that, for all my criticism there or my negativity, they did fund him last summer. They gave him 150 million, didn't they, in transfer fees. So he did get funds last summer, which no Arsenal manager in recent times has had. I mean, he's had more money, Mikel, than what Wenger had at the back end of his reign or what Emery had. So Emery was running the team almost on a shoestring. So there's no. In answer to the question, I think that they will give him some money, but whether in terms of what you expect them to give him, I don't think they're going to throw massive money at him. But we put ourselves in the position we know we need to spend. I think on a real quality striker, 60, 70 million pounds. I think this week there's talk of Tillemans being something that I think might be a good option in midfield if we can get that. If we are interested, but we're not the only ones interested in him. But the price of 25 million, I think, would suit Arsenal. And he could play on that left side in number 8 role where Xhaka plays. I know we talked about that off air before we came on. So I think there will be some business because going into, if we do get Champions League or European campaign, the squad this year was depleted, knowing that we only have one game a week, Dan. And next year, if you're in Europe, you're going to need more players. So yes, he's got to buy players. It's just a question of how much money he needs, and I've no idea what Cronkies will give him. But over the last year, history does suggest that they do give him. So maybe I have to take back what I said at the start of that answer.
Do you know, it's funny because when you started that, I actually thought to myself, yeah, fair play. And I thought, actually, let's look at what we have spent because we've spent a lot of money. Unfortunately, Graham, look at what we have spent it on in the past. Now, in the last, say, maybe 3 transfer windows, although be it we didn't spend any money in January, I do feel personally that we have improved our recruitment since Mikel Arteta and Edu have come into the mix. I think it's much better than it was under Raul, Husfami and Emery. I think now we're starting to see players that are coming into with the right mentality and we're shifting out and removing that kind of culture of the Ozils, Mustafis, David Luiz's, Bellerin's, and obviously the likes of Aubameyang of late out the window. And I think what we are bringing in are people that seem to want to play for the shirt and seem to have a connect with the fans. And I've really enjoyed that. We bought 6 players in the summer. I expect to see a similar number, if I'm honest with you, this summer.
Okay.
And I do think that Stan Kroenke is going to provide money. But the reason I say that is because, one, he's always provided money, but he's not really bothered about where we spend it or how we spend it. And it's been key the last 5-6 years. Now that he's not just the majority shareholder, but actually the owner, I think he's had, or Josh particularly, has had more of a care in where Mikel Arteta and Edu are getting involved with their recruitment. And I think that has been key. With the Rams, they've done their business and everyone's getting excited saying that Arsenal were the next project. Now, I have my doubts because I still feel there's a lack of care and ambition there, and they have neglected the club and football as a sport in particular, as opposed to the American sports. But what I will say, Graham, is I think that if we are to look at another, say, let's just say 6 players, we get those 2 strikers, those 2 midfielders, maybe a backup right back and another winger. We've got Matt Turner coming in goal, Saliba coming back as a centre back. Maybe we're looking at a squad then as opposed to just 13 or 14 players that is good enough to compete, not win titles, but compete with the 4 competitions we're going to be in. Because if we do get into that top 4, I want to be making sure we're actually giving the Champions League a go, not just dropping back down into the Europa League places by coming 3rd in the league or bottom, in fact, of the Premier League group, the Champions League group stages. So I think we are sort of 6 or 7 players away still, in my opinion. I expect quite a lot of players to leave. I don't think we need to replace every single one of those players because a lot of them are dead wood. I expect to see the likes of Bellerin, Mavropanos, Guendouzi, Torreira. I expect to see players like Lacazette, Eddie, El Neni, maybe even Granit Xhaka people are talking about going out. that doesn't particularly, for me mean that we need to go and buy 12 players. I think that we probably need to go and buy the 6 or 7 that I've mentioned in those positions. And there's a lot of names I can go through and there's a lot of links and it drives people crazy in the end because there's just so many names that get thrown at you. But all I'll say is this: I don't care if they don't cost 72 million like Pepe. I just want them to have the mentality of the Aaron Ramsdales of this world, the Tommy Asus of this world, the Erdegaards of this world. Because what I've seen, although people might not think they're like the perfect players to take us forward to win a title, I've seen players come in that I've actually liked. And I look at that Arsenal side at the moment. I go through them when they come out the tunnel and I think, there ain't many that I don't like at the moment, Graham. I used to go, oh, Bellerin's playing. Oh, Ozil, what's he going to be like today? Mustafi, oh no, Socrates, David Luiz, mistakes all around the team. Now I start to look at it and I think I'm quite happy with what I'm seeing. I like the players. I actually do. I think the manager I've had question marks on, certainly in the last couple of years, but certainly these players that he has to take a lot of credit for him and Edu, I'm starting to like and feel more positive about the fan connect with the players and starting to enjoy watching Arsenal with them all on the pitch, giving 110%. So that fills me with a lot of confidence. In terms of top 4, I do think it's going to be difficult because our fixtures are not kind. But I will say this: something has to go drastically wrong if Arsenal don't get into the Champions League this season. So I'm praying that this bomb does not go off. Tottenham has still got to go to Anfield, and they still have got a couple of tricky games. Villa away, as we've seen, is not easy. They've still got Newcastle this weekend, which everyone's saying is a completely different kettle of fish now to come up against. Manchester United, likewise, have still got to go to Anfield and have got a couple of games, including us. But Arsenal have got West Ham away, Spurs away, Chelsea away, and of course Manchester United at home. The rest of the games, I'd like to think that we could potentially get, near as near to full house.
I think we're going to need, Dan, I think we're going to need 5 wins and probably 3 draws on that game. That will give us 18 points. And I think that takes us, to 72, does it? What are we on, 50?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so, and I think that'll be enough. 5 wins and 3 draws. I think that'll be enough. So, and I'm looking at those games: Everton, Leeds at home, Brighton at home. There's 3 potentially you expect us to win. We get 2 wins elsewhere, and I think we're perfectly capable of beating Man United at home. And I think that I can see us getting a result at Southampton, to be honest. So there's potentially at least 5 wins straight away off the top of my head. And who's to say we won't win one of those other games? So, but are you going to the game Monday night, mate? By the way,
I'm going on Monday night. I will be there.
Just remember, don't celebrate too hard if we win it.
Like
the celebration police will be on your case. So
I will.
I know I did this thing on Tactical Insight with James where we did I know he's done a little parody, hasn't he, about sort of about celebrations. But I was saying to him, sort of like this celebration thing is sort of like what's come out of this over the last week. It's another little dig at Arsenal. It seems to be more than anything. I mean, so. And I was saying to him, sort of like the only thing Tottenham ever celebrate is Harry Kane landmarks, don't they? So what is if you can't celebrate a win or a thing, what is the point of Tottenham Hotspur existing?
Whenever Arsenal are doing well, it's a very nice time. Why? Because we're winning, but 2, because the media are very quiet. When Arsenal are losing, we're all over the media and everybody loves talking about us. They hate this at the moment. They hate the fact that Arsenal are enjoying supporting their team and winning matches. The media hate it. They can't stand it. So what do? We can't think of anything negative to say. So we'll make something up about them celebrating like they've won the league because they've beaten Villa and Wolves. And unfortunately, as much as that is perhaps a bit sad, it's the true reality of things that the media seem to hate Arsenal doing well. And I've always said it. I don't believe that it's all the media. I think there are some pundits that do quite like Arsenal winning. Paul Merson being one. Mika Richards always gives us a lot of credit. But there are a lot of pundits that seem to hate the fact that Arsenal are doing well. So that's the way it is at the moment. Long may it continues, because if people were hating on us, that means we're doing well as far as I'm concerned. So long may it continue. Mate, this has been a pleasure. Absolutely love speaking to you on this show. I love your Insight show, mate, on AFTV with James. I know I'm biased, but I'll say it's the best show on AFTV. I still stand by it, and I love having you a part of this, and I really enjoy learning stuff from you in terms of the analysis of the game. Graham, it's an absolute pleasure having you on again, mate.
Yeah, and likewise, Dan, I love your passion for the club, and you're one of my mates now. Really great. Looking forward to doing the show with you every week, and just love catching up with you and talking Arsenal. It's a real privilege. We support a great club, and I'm really grateful for the opportunity that you've given me on League Judges TV. And yeah, so as long as you have me, I'm always up for doing them with you. And hopefully I'll meet you after the Brighton game, mate. That's the next one I'm going to. So enjoy it, Crystal Palace, but don't celebrate too hard if we win. Let's hope you're celebrating. Actually. Let's hope you're celebrating, all right?
I really hope that we are, man. Absolute pleasure having you on. Thanks to everybody as well for listening in the chat and on the audio. Much appreciated. This has been Lee Judges TV for the Arsenal Team Talk. Hopefully we'll be back to celebrate 3 points at Selhurst Park and carry on continuing the top 4 race as it goes week by week. Until then, we'll see you next time. Take care, guys.